All right, let's look at example 4. In example 4, we have, once again, our format of our equation is x squared plus b plus c. And in this example, we're going to deal with a negative b and a negative c. All right, so here's my example. X squared minus 7x minus 18. So we know that our multiplication factor table is going to try and worry about minus 18. When you add them together, we're going to try and get to negative 7. So let's start off with negative 1 times 18. Negative 1 times 18 gives me my negative 18, but it adds up to 17. Well, let's try the opposite of that. 1 and negative 18, that adds up to negative 17. So I still haven't found what I'm looking for. Let's extend this down a little bit. Let's try negative 2 and 9. Negative 2 and 9 adds up to 7. Well, that's close, but it's not negative 7. It's just 7, so that's not right. But that tells me that the opposite signs of that two factors is probably going to come up right. And there it is, negative 7. Negative 7. So 2 and negative 9 are my numbers. X plus 2 and x minus 9. Okay, now let's take a look at example 5. In example 5, what's going on? In example 5, they say sometimes you have an equation that doesn't quite look right, and they want you to solve the equation. Not just factor it, but actually solve it. So you're going to use the concept of factoring the equation, and then you're going to probably use the zero product theorem. And if you remember, that is, you set the two factors equal to 0 and solve for both, and then you have two answers. And let's take a look at an example of that. Let's say we have x squared plus 5x equals 6. Well, right away I can't do anything with that because it's not in the standard format that I want, x squared plus bx plus c. So I'm going to subtract 6 from each side, and that leaves me with x squared plus 5x minus 6 equals 0. All right, now I can see the potential here. So I'm going to go ahead and just do it right here. I need to factor to get to negative 6, but when I add it, it needs to be positive 5. So negative 1 times 6 is added together is positive 5. And right off the bat, I found an answer. Okay? So I know that this 5 is right because it matches this positive 5 right here. So I now know that I can say that this factors to x minus 1 times x plus 6 equals 0. And once you have that, I can use the zero product theorem to set each half equal to 0. So x minus 1 is equal to 0, and x plus 6 is equal to 0. X is equal to 1. I added 1 to both sides. Over here, I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. X equals negative 6. And so now my answer set is 1 and negative 6. So let's look at the last example, example 5. Or example 6, excuse me. Example 6 goes like this. It's kind of a long, convoluted story, but basically I have a picture. And I want to expand that picture by the same amount out and up. So we're going to call that x. So I'm going to end up with a new picture that big, but I want my new area of my picture to be twice as big as the old area. Okay? So I know that this used to be 8 and 12 is the old. So basically, from that logic, I have to figure out what is my equation for x. How big do I have to figure it out? How big do I have to make x in order to double the size of the picture? Well, let's take a look. At first, I can say to myself that the x plus 12 times x plus 8, notice that's my new width and height, okay, is going to be equal to my old area, which was 8 times 12, but I want this new area to be double that, so 2 times 8 times 12. All right, does everybody see that there now? So I've got my new width and my new height is equal to my new area. And I just have to solve for x. So doing so, I'm going to multiply it out. I get x squared plus 12x plus 8x plus 96 is equal to, and this is 192. 2 times 8 times 12 is 192. And now I notice that I have like terms, so I'm going to go x squared plus 20x plus 96 equals 192. Now I'm going to subtract 192 from both sides. X squared plus 20x minus 96 equals 0. Now I need to factor that. So I'm going to come over here and do a table. I need to find negative 96. And needs to add up to positive 20. So that's the goal I'm looking for, positive 20. So let's try negative 1 and 96. Well, that obviously is 95 when they add together, so that's not right. So let's try the opposite. 1 and negative 96. That's negative 95. So that's not right. Excuse me, there you go. That's not right yet. So let's try negative 2 and 48. And that's a 46. Well, that's not 20. Remember, we're looking for 20. So we try the opposite of that, 2 and negative 48. Well, that's negative 46. So let's try 3, negative 3 and 32. Well, that's 29. Let's try 3 and negative 32. That's negative 29. Let's try negative 4 and 24. And that gives me 20. Oh, there it is. There's the 20 that we were looking for. So that means these two are my factors and go into my factor. So x minus 4 times x plus 24 equals 0. Then I set each side equal to 0 using the zero product theorem. Add 4 and add 4. X is equal to 4. Over here, x is equal to negative 24. So my solution set is 4 comma negative 24. That's my two possible solutions. However, if you remember, my original problem was how much distance do I have to add to it? I can't have a negative distance. So my final answer is 4. And I go back and I look at the problem, and I didn't write that up here, but these are centimeters. So 4 centimeters is my final answer.